Well, I'm not good at judging winds, but the gusts here, last I checked, were 90 miles an hour, and they've become substantially stronger in the last half an hour. Now, I'm 7 feet above sea level. If you look all the way down, you look at that, way down, and that's the ocean behind us. We're expecting the storm surge to be 9.5 feet. We're 7 feet right now. Look at the water all around me. I don't know if you can see it, but as I move just toward the curve, you get a picture of the fact that Atlantic City is flooding right now.
Welcome back to the program. We started by showing you Ali Velshi in Atlantic City. Well, just a little further up the coast, we find Maggie Lake at Asbury Park, New Jersey, where there's also a lot of storm damage. Maggie, what is the worst that you're seeing there?
You know, Christian, the conditions definitely worsening. We're taking refuge behind a wall, but if I step out on the boardwalk, the wind speeds have certainly picked up in the last couple of hours, and I want you to look over my shoulder. Everyone here is nervous that what we see and have been seeing in Atlantic City is going to happen here to this community. We're a little higher up. We don't have the flooding yet, but we definitely see that ocean is now kicking.
Does that mean all the emergency procedures stay in place, the states of emergency, the transportation cancellations, all of that lockdown has to stay in place as well?
Absolutely. And we're going to see tens of millions of people without power. And these power companies will not put their men and women in these power company trucks in buckets going up on a power pole to put these lines back until the winds die off. So if you lose power right now, you may be without power for an entire week. That's like going camping for a week in your home without power. Things spoil in your refrigerator. You know, if you have medicines in the fridge, they can go bad. This is a very dangerous situation before, after, and of course during the storm.
Chad, how would you describe it? We heard Dr. Kaku say that there's been nothing seen like this. It's really the monster storm from hell. How would you describe this historically?
I don't know if you remember the movie The Perfect Storm. It was about, Sebastian Junger wrote the book. It was about a big storm off the coast of Massachusetts, and one of the ships that was out there, one of the fishing vessels sunk, and people's lives were lost. That was a lot like this storm, except that storm, called The Perfect Storm in 1991, did not make landfall. It stayed in the ocean. So yes, there were winds and yes, there were waves, but not this. This is worse than anything anyone has ever seen in a place where there are 60 million people involved.
Very, very soon, reporter Maggie Lake is in the nearby town of Asbury Park in New Jersey. What are you seeing, Maggie? Where are you, where are you seeing the serious problems?
Well, we're right on the boardwalk. We're actually taking refuge behind a building, if you can believe it. But if you step out with me here, you can see that we are starting to see the ocean really kick up now. And the tide, remember, high tide's about 7, 8 o'clock here. The tide really pushing in toward the boardwalk. Many people here extremely concerned about what happened in Atlantic City and the fact that they may be next. We still have a ways to go. The ocean, the wave size getting bigger. The gusts are now much stronger than they were earlier today. We are actually right near Convention Hall, historic Convention Hall, and right stone's throw from the Stone Pony. A lot of Bruce Springsteen fans will remember a lot of concern about what's going to happen here. We talked to Harry, a longtime resident. He works security as well, and he talked about his concerns for Asbury Park. Have a listen.
The powerful winds, the torrential rain, the storm surges, they are Carolina all the way to Maine. The area of tropical storm force winds extends almost, get this, 1,000 miles. Many coastal towns have been evacuated. Major cities are completely shut down. New York City alone could face catastrophic flooding. More than 765,000 customers already are without power in 7 states. Tens of millions could face blackouts lasting for days. Our reporters are standing by throughout the disaster area to bring you the story the way only CNN can. Let's go to Atlantic City, New Jersey right now, which is bearing so much of the brunt of the storm at this hour. Parts of the city already underwater, barely visible, forcing authorities to evacuate hundreds of people from areas where flooding is said to be dangerously high. Casinos are cleared out, and less than an hour from now, the entire city will be under curfew, a mandatory curfew, bracing for the worst. Let's go straight to the streets of Atlantic City. Ali Velshi is standing by. Ali, it could make landfall within minutes right now. Give us a little flavor of what you're seeing. It looks awful.
Well, Well, we talked a few minutes ago. It's actually, I think we're catching a break in one of the bands before this is probably the calm before the storm, because as you know, the last time I talked to you, it was hard to actually stand up. So you dramatically increase police presence around here, making sure nobody's on the streets, because it's 6 o'clock Eastern, 1 hour from now. They want everybody who doesn't have a reason to be outside inside their homes. You heard from the mayor, who said a number of people haven't left. That worries them, but at this point, if you haven't left, don't go out. You probably can't get out of Atlantic City anyway because the roads have become overwashed. That's the ocean behind me. You've actually got a bunch of guys playing around in it, as you can see. Not the ocean, that's the intersection. The ocean is about 3/4 of a mile behind that. These guys are enjoying themselves. They've got about 55 minutes left to enjoy themselves because the police are going to come and clear everybody out. But the fact is, Wolf, this tells you a bit of a story, because less than an hour ago, you couldn't be outside here having a good time. It was really severe. So maybe Chad knows more about this than I do, but something has definitely broken here, because we're expecting that it's going to get much worse before it gets better. We're getting a lot more water in the streets, as you can see. We're at 7 feet. We're expecting a 9.5-foot storm surge, so most of Atlantic City will be covered in water in the next couple of hours.
So the situation could worsen as the evening progresses, but right now, this is severe in terms of the wind and some of the damage. We're seeing flying debris as well. So we are certainly going to get out of harm's way. I'm using this tree as a little safe haven here to protect me and the crew. We're certainly trying to stay safe out here. But again, echoing Chad and Allie, the characteristic of this storm is certainly changing, and Hurricane Sandy is definitely being felt.
Where you are right now and what it's like.
I'm in the southern tip of Manhattan, and another gust is just coming up, Wolf. So I'm going to spin the camera around a bit. Behind me, you can see New Jersey. As I spin around, you can see the high rises of Manhattan. Listen, this is one of the most famous sea level cities in the world, and look where sea level is. Right here. If Mayor Bloomberg is accurate in his prediction that the worst of the surge could be 12 feet, well, you'd probably be looking at about here.
Despite my admonition to evacuate, he gave them comfort, for some reason, to stay. We now have a large number of people, we can't quantify it at this point, that are in Atlantic City, and at this juncture, there is no other way for us to go in and get them. They're going to have to ride out the storm there until at least 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. I cannot, in good conscience, send rescuers in as the storm is about to hit in the next hour, nor can I send them in the dark, given all the various hazards that would occur potentially to them. And so I asked these people to leave. For some reason, the mayor, in his initial conversations with the public, told them he didn't want his people leaving Atlantic City. So you have people staying, either self-sheltering in their homes or sheltering in some city shelters there, one of which is literally a block away from the bay.
Well, Wolf, take a look around me. This water is just the beginning of what we're expecting to see tonight. You were saying the state officials here predicting a storm surge of up to 11 feet. But just to the west of me is the Connecticut River. Behind me is Long Island Sound. That's just behind those houses back there on the dunes. I'm more than a block away from the ocean right here, and you can see what's happening right now.
Allie, we've been coming to you throughout the hours, and you have been blown around quite a bit. What are you seeing now? I understand the citywide curfew is just set in, yes?
Curfew is underway right now. You are not to be on the streets of Atlantic City. It is against the law now. There's a complete travel ban. If you are not an emergency crew, you're not covering this. You see this emergency vehicle coming up right next to me. That's all we're seeing. National Guard just drove by. They are enforcing this curfew. If anybody's in their houses now, we got some conflicting information in New Jersey. Obviously, at this point, nobody should be moving. But the governor of New Jersey, just moments ago on your show, was saying he's disappointed that some people didn't take that warning too seriously. The street I am on, look at it. It is a river. It's absolutely a river right now, all the way down the street. All major electrical power is out in this part of New Jersey. The lights you are seeing are auxiliary. There's a green light all the way down the street. Just turned yellow.
We're following the breaking news here in the United States. Take a look at this, a partial collapse of a construction crane high above Manhattan. You can see the arm of the crane dangling over West 57th Street between 6th and 7th. Wind in New York City about 60 miles an hour when it happened, but it's not clear yet if that was the precise cause of what's going on. Regardless, part of the street has been closed. Several nearby buildings, including the Parker Meridian Hotel, have been evacuated. We're watching New York City very, very closely right now. Kate Baldwin is checking what's going on. She's outside here in Washington. But let me go to Brian Todd right now. He's in Rehoboth, Delaware, where he's interviewed the governor in Delaware. It's pretty bad as well, Brian.
It is, Wolf, and I'm going to show you what they're worried about right now. They're worried about high tide. The second high tide of the day is approaching, and the surf here getting much, much more violent. Look at this wave coming in here. This has been typical for the last couple of hours. The surf coming right up to where I am. They are really worried about beach erosion here, and the surf getting much, much closer to the boardwalk and to the hotels and businesses around here. They replenished this beach earlier this year, built the beach out about 300 feet toward the ocean. Right now, they say that is saving these businesses, hotels, residents, but they are worried that the beach may not hold out and that the boardwalk may be compromised. You mentioned Governor Jack Markell. I spoke with him just a short time ago about what he's worried about for the entire state. Take a listen.
My biggest worry is actually the loss of power, which I think is going to increase significantly over the next several hours, and the fact that it could take, a week or more before a lot of people get their power back on.
What are you being told about that right now? I mean, as far as numbers, as far as just what the storm is doing to power systems?
Well, there are thousands already that are out. I mean, it's increased a lot just over the last few hours. And the fact that this storm is going to stick around, the fact that the winds are so high, and the fact that the power companies can't put their own people out in the trucks, if it's above 35 miles an hour or so, we're going to have that 35 miles an hour for a while. So they're not going to be able to repair a lot of the power that's down.
And we can feel that wind kicking up right now. The governor's so worried about it. It's going to be worse in the overnight hours. Storm surge bringing the storm up here. It's also bringing storm surge from the bays and inlets behind us to the west that come up behind the ocean here. So they're getting hit from both sides with storm surge and, of course, with a lot of rainwater.
Tough assignment for reporters. Here's CNN's Ginny Mose.
In a hurricane, they act as human weather balloons.
That's a wind gust right there. Well, that's a wind gust.
Weather balloons tethered to whatever they can clutch. Sometimes somebody clutches them.
These are probably I've got the Nassau County Sheriff holding me onto the boardwalk.
Some were literally covered with Hurricane Sandy.
Yeah, I'm going to let you kind of take some of the sand off of your face there.
Somehow some sand got in my mouth.
But that was the least of their problems.
Wait, Rick, get to safer ground.
Glenn, get back behind the building. I don't want you blown away.
Or worse, washed away.
Timing those waves out, watching that water move in. He's been in these situations a lot, by the way.
Right. Another rogue wave got a CBS team.
Okay. Whoa. Whoa. Hey, guys. Whoa.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Meanwhile, beach erosion swallowed a Fox reporter's foot.
Does not look good. Oh, excuse me. Oh. It looks like the sandy walkway out to the beach has actually got my boot stuck.
Oh, my gosh.
CNN's Jason Carroll stumbled on a scuba diver prepared for flooding near his house.
And if I have to get out, I have scuba gear, I have surfboards, I have a kayak.
Some who boarded up left defiant messages to the storm, comparing her to Hurricane Irene. Hey, Sandy, Irene left her panties here. Come try 'em on.
Bad as those reporters in Ginny Moses' piece, but you can see Jay McMichael, our photojournalist, will show you this really awe-inspiring image of the U.S. Capitol, and you can see the American flag right in front of it, Wolf, absolutely whipping in the wind. I mean, it is a drenching, cold rain and sheets of rain just whipping through the streets. It's definitely not warm out here either. So Hurricane Sandy is making her presence known here in D.C. as well as all along the East Coast. As you know, Wolf, some 60 million people could be affected by this.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Maren Burnett. Out front tonight, I am live in New York City, a part of the city that has been evacuated. New York City is under siege right now from Sandy. The storm. It's a little hard here even to talk, as you can tell. Let's get to Chad Myers right now in Atlanta. Chad has the very latest you, it feels like it's getting stronger by the second.
In this particular area of Lindenhurst where we are, finally decided it was time to come out and leave. The water was just rising too quickly. It was rising too high. We had been out in this area all day long. We saw the water steadily come up. We saw people leaving throughout the day. This is an area under a mandatory evacuation. Even so, some residents decided they were going to wait it out. Well, just as we were live a few moments ago, an elderly woman, her son, her daughter decided it was time to go. So they finally were able to make it out. And even before that, we had a point, Aaron, where we went out with fire crews from the Lindenhurst Fire Department, went out with them. We saw at least 3 rescues happening when we went out with them. They told us throughout the day they had rescued almost 24 people, sometimes from homes, sometimes from cars. And it's just a very valuable lesson. When you hear warnings about a storm like this coming, when you see the water starting to rise, don't wait. Emergency officials will tell you best thing to do is to get out and get out safely.
Take a look at this street here. I know it's tough to tell because we lost power here. Power went out just about 20 minutes ago. Behind me here, and I know it looks like a canal, but it's actually a street. We've seen so many streets like this flooded throughout this area. And I'm going to show you right over here. This is actually Montauk Highway, and I know people here are going to find this hard to believe because Anderson residents who have lived here for generations say they cannot remember the last time water breached the Montauk Highway, but we've seen several breaches along here. Lindenhurst is under a mandatory evacuation, but even so, throughout the day we saw a number of people who were debating whether or not they were going to stay or go. And just about, I don't know, maybe about an hour ago, Anderson, we were live on the air, and then we just saw some of the last people coming out of their homes, struggling to get up the street. Earlier today, we were out with Lindenhurst Fire Department, went out on some rescues with them, pulling people mostly out of their homes, but we're also told they also had to pull people out of their cars. And this is one of the main reasons why, when earlier officials were saying, heed these very serious warnings, get out of harm's way, this is the reason why. And though you can't see it, I can certainly smell it. There's a heavy smell of smoke in the air because not only has the fire department had to deal with the water like this, which has risen throughout the area, but several house fires, some electrical fires. So they're dealing with that as well. So a lot of problems here in Lindenhurst. By light of day, I'm sure we're going to be seeing even more.
Literally got knocked off the air a short time ago. Let's bring in Chad Myers, our severe weather expert who's monitoring events in the Severe Weather Center. Chad, what are we looking at in terms of